So figuring out how to earn money on the road is really important for many people. Many aspiring nomads or new nomads who are trying it out and not sure if they're going to be able to continue it. One of the critical things that'll make a difference of whether they're able to be successful in that or not is if they can continue to earn an income on the road. There's a older stereotype that people who are traveling by RV or in campers, whatever have you, are retired and affluent, and that's definitely not true anymore. It probably was never totally true. It's definitely not true anymore. And, more and more younger people are doing it. Some are on Social Security, sure. Some have pensions, whatever. Some are disabled and traveling that way. But a lot of us, my age, a lot of people even younger than me I've met out here, we're doing it as working age adults, and we have to be able to support ourselves. So for some of us, for example, when I was ready to get on the road, it still took me some adjustment. I don't want to make it sound like it was super easy and there was no process to it or anything, but I was already a writer, and I was working, doing a bit with photography. So the steps for me to get from doing the work I was already doing in an office 9 to 5 to doing it remotely, freelance, were fairly simple. And that was made even easier by the fact that I'd done freelance work off and on, sometimes part-time, sometimes full-time, for the decade prior. So it was a fairly simple, I knew how to do it. It just was a matter of lining up the right work to support me on the road. But for a lot of people, they may be working in fields already where they don't lend themselves well to freelancing, like what I do. So they may be looking for jobs that allow them to travel and be on the road and go different places. Maybe follow the seasons. Maybe just change a few times a year. They want to be close to different family members, or they just want to travel and see different parts of the country. They're not concerned about the weather so much. So whatever the routine is there, people still will need to find jobs if they're not able to do like freelance work or not have a business of their own. It comes to jobs, I'm going to do 2 different videos on this. Okay, this one, I'm going to talk about popular work camping jobs. And then in the next one, I'll talk about alternatives to these popular work camping jobs. Popular work camping jobs, I almost am reluctant to even do this video because these things have been talked about, by many people on blogs, videos, what have you. There's just not a whole lot new I think I can say about this. But I'm going to do this video for the sole reason that it's part of a series, and so if I do the rest of the series and don't do this one because other people talked about it, the series will be kind of incomplete. So I don't want to leave it that way. So as far as the most popular work camping jobs, there are 3 that I'm aware of that I see mentioned a lot on a lot of lists, and I know a lot of people who have done all or some combination of these 3. So starting with spring, summer, early fall, campground hosting is a popular option for a lot of nomads. Basically, there are state parks or national parks, and they have campgrounds, and they need caretakers, essentially, or camp hosts to be on site. Basically they fill in where the rangers don't, so that the rangers can do their job and not have to worry about babysitting the campground, essentially. So, and so the camp hosts, the campground hosts may, starting with the least glamorous, you end up cleaning the bathrooms, empty trash, clean up campsites between campers come and go. You may do camper registration if it's a site that doesn't have self-registration. So just kind of basic stuff around the campground. You're not going to get rich doing campground hosting. The wages at the state and federal parks I've seen, they're generally like in the $8 to $10 an hour neighborhood, depending on the minimum wage in that state. But in a lot of those cases, you're going to get a free campsite for the summer too. And, you're hanging out in a pretty nice place where other people are paying to come visit. You're getting paid to be there, so you may not get rich, but you can make enough. And, if you're careful and not going to the town too often and spending money, I mean, you're basically living for free. You've got your hookups, you've got your water, all you need is food, so you can get by a summer and still save some money, even if you're not making a killing. Things to be aware of. I have not done campground hosting myself. I have thought about it and looked into it several times, and just because of the places I need to be in with family reasons and things, I've not been able to find places I'd want to be close to where I need to be for family stuff. So, you know, I would have done it in the past if I could have found one close to where I needed to be in the summer. So that has not worked out for me, but it may work out for other people who don't have the same concerns that I do with my summer location. One thing to be aware of with any kind of campground hosting or similar arrangements, especially in the private industries, is notorious to see job ads where they'll want you to work for 20 or 30 hours a week for free in exchange for a site. And then you may or may not get a few hours past that at like minimum wage or, you know, low pay. Probably you want to stay away from that kind of arrangement because that's just not going to be sustainable unless you have already have a retirement income or something, and you're just looking for entertainment or something to do, or because you want to be in that area for the summer or whatever. That might be okay. But in terms of a job, you're going to want to stay away from those things, and you're going to want to focus on the ones at state and national parks. They're often run through concessionaires rather than by the park service itself or something, but you're going to want to focus on the places that give you a free campsite as well as paying you for every hour that you work. That's how you're going to have the best opportunity to actually make some money over the course of your campground hosting gig. Okay, so moving from there, you get into the fall. A popular option for what has been a popular option for many nomads is the sugar beet harvest in eastern Montana and North Dakota along the North Dakota Minnesota border. I almost did that this last fall, a couple months ago. I actually started the application process last winter when I was down here in Quartzsite, where I'm actually at today, and went through the thing, everything was fine, and then I got an email from them that, well, at first they didn't have, I wanted to go to eastern Montana because that's close to where I was going to be in the summer anyway, so I could just jog up there in the fall, and that would be a short trip. They didn't have openings for singles in eastern Montana, but I could go to the, eastern North Dakota along the Minnesota border and do that. And I said, okay, fine, it's a lot more miles, it's like hundreds more miles, but I figured it'd be worth it. So, well, then I got an email over the summer that they're not doing that anymore because they don't have room for singles. They've had an increase in activity and interest, and so they need to place, they don't have campgrounds, so they need to place couples rather than singles. So they weren't going to be able to accommodate people like me who were singles. And then I had a follow-up email, oh yeah, we've been able to get some more campgrounds set up, so, singles will be okay still, at least a limited number of them. And so then I talked to them some more, and then they started cracking down on rigs you could bring. And I told them up front, I don't have a bathroom or anything, so I need to be at a campground that's got, bathroom facilities. Well, as it turns out, they're really looking for they don't want people in vans is the issue, okay? They don't want people in tents. They want people who are in RVs that are self-contained. And so you have to, I forget the exact list now. I don't have it written down anymore. But it was like you had to have a table and a stove or a refrigerator or some, I don't know, there was several things you had to have that were very RV-like. And so I'm sitting there scratching my head going, how am I going to fit all that into a minivan? It ain't going to happen, okay? So, that did not work out for me. I withdrew from that. Now, beyond that, nothing to be aware of is that even though they like to advertise that older people in their 70s can do this job, blah, 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 I would wager those people in their 70s or don't have much in the way of like orthopedic injuries, for example, or other problems that would affect their mobility. You're going to be on your feet for 12 hours a day, potentially 7 days a week, in sometimes adverse weather conditions. So you need to be, if you're thinking about doing sugar beet harvest, you want to be honest with yourself, that's something you're going to be able to do. So you don't drive all the way up there and last a day or two and have to quit because it's just more than you can physically handle. I had some real concerns if I was going to be able to handle because I have chronic back problems long term, and it's degenerative. So I had real concerns if I was going to be able to handle it. But I was willing to try it because you can make a lot of money in a relatively short period of time. I think they're starting at $12 or $13 an hour now, and some positions are a little higher. But you start at $12 or $13 an hour, and you're working 7 days a week, 12 hours a day, that overtime adds up fast. So it's a chance to make a whole lot of money in 2 or 3 weeks. The other catch to be aware of with a sugar beet harvest is you have to arrive usually the last week of September. You usually start working about the 1st of October, but you have to be there the last week of September for orientation, to get checked in, to get your campground, all that stuff. They'll give you a date when you need to arrive, but it's usually the last week of September. And then you need to commit to being there for the month of October, because they usually 2 or 3 weeks worth of work, and if the weather's conducive every day, can't be too hot, can't be too cold, then they work straight through it. You might work for 14, 15, 18 days without a break. On the other hand, if the weather's not conducive and they can't work every day, you may end up being there working the same number of days, but it may be spread across 3 or even 4 weeks. So you have to commit to the month of October, knowing that you may only be there for half the month of October, or maybe 3 weeks, or maybe 4 weeks. So something to be aware of if you're thinking about doing the sugar beet harvest. But it is a chance to make a fair bit of money pretty quick if it's something that works for you. Finally, the other big one that's been traditional with nomads is Amazon doing their warehouse work. Again, the pay is a little lower, I believe, than the sugar beet harvest. This is not something that appeals to me. Warehouse work doesn't appeal to me to start with. The season doesn't appeal to me. Their warehouses are in places that have winter, so that doesn't appeal to me. And yeah, it's just not something that ever was of interest to me personally. But a lot of people do it and have had success with it. A lot of people have trouble with it because of the combination of winter weather. And again, you're doing long shifts, 10, 12 hours, and you're on in a warehouse on a floor, and the pace is really, really breakneck, according to everyone who's done it. So a lot of people have problems with, wrist or elbow injuries, or knees or backs, or that sort of stuff, because of the long hours walking on concrete, the pace you're working at, the bending and twisting and stooping and lifting and what have you. So if you're, and again, Amazon likes to advertise that people in their 60s and 70s do that job. They don't usually advertise how much Advil those people take to deal with joint pain and stuff. But if you think you're up to it, that's something you can do to make some money. And again, it lasts, it starts in the fall, lasts till right before Christmas. So you can get a couple months of work in. The thing with Amazon, and this is true with all 3 of these ones I talked about today, you can get free camping. So Amazon will pay for your campsite at a nearby campsite. How nearby depends on how early you get hired and get started and stuff. Sometimes people end up being 20 or 30 miles away from where they're working, but they pay for the campsite, just like with a sugar beet harvest, just like with any decent campground hosting arrangement. So you're getting a free campsite, and you're making a fair bit of money. You're getting the overtime, and so you can put some money in the bank. You're probably too busy to spend much money anyways, and too tired when you're not working, so you can save some money. And so a lot of people, this is kind of a trifecta that a lot of nomads have historically done, is these 3 jobs. In the summer they do the campground hosting, and then in the fall they do the sugar beet harvest, and then in the late fall and early winter they do Amazon in a warehouse. Now, there are plenty of other jobs. These are clearly not going to work for everybody. In fact, none of these work for me. The campground hosting would be the best one, probably, but they don't. I can't find an assignment I want near where I need to be in the summer, anyways. So it would, I'm just not going to do that. And then, like I said, I did look at the sugar beet one, but it just didn't come together for me this year, and I don't know that I could have handled it physically, anyways. And then you've got the Amazon, which just does not appeal to me. So that's just my thing. But any of those may work for you. They're worth looking into if you're looking for jobs on the road. And the good thing is the schedules work out that you can usually do all 3 sequentially, and then take some time off to enjoy whatever you want to enjoy being on the road. But that's the popular ones. Those have been historically been popular for a while. Next video, we'll get into some alternatives to these, because clearly these are not going to work for everyone, myself included. And I'll throw some links in the description of this video to these things, so you can kind of get started if you want to learn more. And if you're going to be in Quartzsite this year, like at the RTR, for example, at the Big Tent, which starts about the 3rd weekend of the month, I believe, in January. I'll put a link to that in the description too. there are a lot of, in the big tent, there are all kinds of vendors. They're selling all kinds of crazy stuff. But you'll also find 6, 8, 10 usually places hiring. The sugar beet harvest is always there. Amazon is always there. There's usually multiple campground management companies there hiring for hosts. So there's plenty of opportunities to find, to check those out and get started with the process right here in Quartzsite in January. If you come into RTR, Bob always times it so that the RTR ends the same weekend that the big tent starts. And I'm actually sitting here. I can see the big tent from my van, or where it will be. It's not erected yet. So I'm in Quartzsite right now. But that's, these are some popular things. I hope this gives you a start. I know everybody else talks about these too, so I'm not really providing any brand new information for you, but hopefully this fits in logically into part of a whole series and therefore makes sense why I've included it. That's really the only reason I did this particular video. So in the next video, we'll get into alternatives to these 3 popular work camping options, and then in the video after that we'll get into micro businesses or small businesses, cottage industries that can be operated by nomads on the road. And then I may have 1 or 2 after that in this series to wrap up that are related to these things. Anyways, hopefully it's helpful. I know this information is fairly widely available, but at least it rounds out this series. So meanwhile, thanks for watching, everybody, and we'll see you in the next video.